Yeah, hi there. These comments, I'm going to use the first initial of your first name, M, and I just read your independent practice test number 1. And first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about your organization. And then second, I want to talk about your development of ideas, including your details. And then I will talk about your grammar and your sentence structure. All right. First of all, you have a thesis. You talk about in your first paragraph, the most important thing for my roommate is to be organized and clean, also to be taciturn, and to know how to keep secret. Right? So then in your body paragraphs, the only problem with that is I would say you get to the second paragraph, you say, my mom was a very neat person, so I used to put everything in its place. That's a fact. That doesn't connect to the argument you're making. You'll say, first of all, the first important quality of a good roommate is that he or she is organized. That's how I would change that topic sentence so that it better connects to the purpose. The purpose is to not just talk about your mom. The purpose is to make an argument. So the topic sentence needs to be more factual. Needs to be less factual and more argumentative. Now, the next topic sentence is good. You say, my roommate should be clean. So that's a good argument. You're saying that the next characteristic is a roommate should be clean. Now, with your next idea, you say, when we have to live with a stranger, we should be afraid about our privacy. My roommate must be taciturn. So there, that is a topic sentence that's making an argument. And then you have the next idea. Yeah, I think that final paragraph could be a little bit better. Okay, hold on just a quick second. I'm going to look up something really fast. Okay, so let's go back to what you've written here. Okay, here's, in terms of your organization, I got a couple of things I think you can probably work on. You're using the idea of taciturn, which is meaning being quiet, and then you talk about knowing how to keep secret. Now, it's that final point I don't really see what you're doing. I'm not sure how you're developing that final point. So in that second to the last paragraph, you see, my roommate must be taciturn. I hate obtrusive people. They make me uncomfortable. No one wants to live with such a person because we all have a silly side in our life. We want to keep this side away from the others. Taciturn, it's a person who is quiet, aloof, and generally non-talkative. So I'm not sure that you really have illustrated that idea through the examples that you're using, right? And then the other thing is you haven't really brought up this final idea about knowing how to keep a secret. Now, from an organizational standpoint, I think you're trying to do too much. You're talking about being organized. You're trying to develop that idea. You're trying to talk about why being clean is important, and you're trying to develop that with details. Then you bring up this idea of being taciturn, and then you bring up a fourth idea of knowing how to keep a secret. What I would suggest is to maybe bring up 3 key points, not 4, and then that will give you more time to develop each of these topics in your different body paragraphs. So I think that you tried to do a little too much in this type of essay, and you didn't have enough time to complete the task. All right, let's look at the details. In your second paragraph, you're talking about being neat. I hate so much to look for a long time to find my things, so I cannot live with an unorganized person. You're using very basic vocabulary here. You're using the word things, but you need to be more specific than that. You're saying, I hate to look, for example, if I'm trying to find a pot to cook, and if my roommate doesn't put that back, in the cabinet where it belongs, I will have difficulty finding that. So you need to be more specific in the examples you're using. Don't use what we call general type, non-specific type vocabulary. Use something more specific than what you're doing. Your next paragraph is you're talking about being clean, but you do not give any examples at all to support that. And in the next paragraph, you talk about being a roommate needs to be taciturn, but I don't think that the examples you're using really connect to that idea. And you didn't give any information about knowing how to keep a secret. You mentioned that in your thesis, but you did not address that in any of your body paragraphs. So that really, really hurts your organization. Now, the next thing is you also have a number, an accumulation of grammar and word choice errors that are causing your essay to be difficult to read. For example, in your first paragraph, you have the last two sentences, the final sentence, also to be taciturn and know how to keep secrets. That's a fragment. So if you look at that last sentence, you might say, also, a good roommate needs to be taciturn and should know how to keep a secret. So you need to rewrite that final sentence so that it has a subject and a verb in it. So that would be my suggestion there. Let's go to your next paragraph, the one where you're talking about your mom. Okay. You have in the, where is it? I'm going to say, let's take a look at the very first sentence. You say, my mom was a very neat person, so I used to put everything in its place. Now, if your mom is dead, I hope not. And if she is, I'm sorry. But if she isn't dead, I probably wouldn't use the word was. I would say my mom person. So, when I lived with her in our house, I used to put everything in its place. But of course, it depends on your meaning there. So, if your mom is dead, then the grammar you're using works. However, if your mom is still alive, then maybe your grammar does not work because you're not communicating the idea that you want to communicate. Okay, let's take a look at your next sentence about the roommate being clean. You say, also my roommate should be, you say a clean. You can't really do that. Clean is an adjective. You can't put a before an adjective. So you say, also my roommate should be clean. Then you say, dirty makes me, I would say that this is a word order problem. Dirty, not dirty, how about dirt? Dirt makes me really sick, comma, and I do not want to clean up after anybody or clean after anybody. Okay, the other thing is in your next paragraph, you have a lot of very short sentences. For example, you say, my roommate must to be taciturn, and you can't even do that. You want to say, my roommate must be taciturn. And then you have, I hate obtrusive people. They make me uncomfortable. So what you can do here is you could combine all three of these sentences and say something like this. My roommate must be taciturn because I hate obtrusive people who always make me uncomfortable. So what I did is I took your three shorter sentences, I combined it, so now you have one. So I think that would work better. So the reason, M, I think if you're using shorter sentences, you do that to draw emphasis to your writing. But if you use too many shorter sentences, it loses the effect of drawing emphasis to the writing, and it demonstrates very basic writing proficiency. Okay, let's go to your final paragraph. I'll see if I need to make any changes here. You say, at last, I think I should be very serious when you have chose, I would say when I choose my roommate, not our. And then put a period. So you don't have a comma splice there, and say, this person will share with me many details in my daily life. But, maybe put a comma after but, if this person is well-ordered, neat, and taciturn, comma, I think the other good things, I would say, will come later. That would be how I would rewrite some of the last paragraph. Okay, now it's time to take a look at your score to see how you would score and why. With your particular essay, I'm going to put you at 1.0 out of 5, or 8 points out of 30. I think on this one, you have, I think, inadequate organization or connection of ideas, as I pointed out. You have inappropriate or insufficient explanations or examples or details to support your generalizations as they relate to the writing task. You have serious and frequent errors in sentence structure and usage. Those are really your biggest, I think, issues and the reasons why I gave the essay the score that I did. Now the next thing that you kind of have to think about is, what do you do now? I mean, obviously you want your writing to be better than this, and it can be better than this. So in the next part of this video, I want to give you some suggestions of things you can do at my website that can help you make progress. Now, before we really get into this, I got to ask you a question. I mean, really, this is really the basic question. Do you want to improve your writing? My next question, are you willing to work hard to improve your writing? The reason I'm asking these two questions is because the motivation and your practice are very, very important in you making progress. But obviously, if you don't want to improve your writing, it's not going to get any better. Or if you don't practice, it's not going to get any better, right? So I'm assuming that you do. I'm assuming that, yes, Michael, I want to improve my writing. I'm assuming you might be thinking, yes, Michael, I'm willing to practice. So here's what I recommend. Your vocabulary is very basic. You're using very, very basic vocabulary. So my first recommendation is to work super hard on step 1, which is supersize your vocabulary. You really need to make a difference in improving your vocabulary proficiency. That means you want to go through vocabulary lessons 1 through 4 and then complete all the quizzes. Do lesson 5, learn those words, complete those quizzes. Do lesson 6, complete all those quizzes, and then take the final exam. Your goal, M, is on the final exam, you want to try to get close to 85% on that final exam. If you do that, that means you have made some very good progress with your vocabulary. That's my first suggestion. Now my second suggestion is the grammar part of my course. I think that you can really benefit from studying grammar. So I would recommend grammar lesson number 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. And then the hard part is lesson 7, the writing, grammar, ESO, and research exercises. I would recommend that you spend most of your time for the remainder of the quarter to work in the grammar and the writing portions of the website. It's called A Writer's Reference by Diana Hacker, 6th edition. And also, think about this. I mean, if you work and study the grammar here, this is also going to benefit you for your TOEFL score. Now, you will not get better unless you practice. I'll be honest with you. You do have to make a constant effort each week to do some practice. So, these are my suggestions so far. Now, as you're doing lesson number 7, the grammar lesson number 7, it would be good for you to write down, when you see which sentence is correct in the exercise, write that sentence on a separate sheet of paper. Write the whole sentence, subject and the verb and everything. Pay very close attention to the punctuation and the word choice and all of that. And that's also going to be a step in the right direction. Okay, now let's go into the writing part of my course. I do have some lessons that you can focus on which can help you get better. Okay, the first thing that I recommend for you maybe is lesson number 4. And believe it or not, there's one speaking lesson that's going to be good for you. It's called speaking lesson number 2. I also recommend that you watch that video because in the very beginning of the video, it will show you 5 different kinds of grammar structures that you can use to introduce your ideas. And that will help you with your thesis because you're having a lot of problems with your grammar. Now, in addition to studying speaking lesson 2 and writing lesson number 1, I'd also recommend that you take a look at my writing lesson number 5.1, writing effective topic sentences, writing lesson number 5.2, using transition words to connect ideas. I think you can improve there. Also, writing lesson number 5.3, writing details to support generalizations, I think would be good. And then, lesson number 8, how to make your writing more coherent. And then the last thing with the writing is, take a look at lesson number 7. It's called 45 Sample Essays. And maybe once a week, you can take one of the essays that you see, and then you can either type the whole thing or you can handwrite the whole thing. Again, you're paying attention to the writer's grammar, word choice, punctuation, all of that. All right, so those are my basic suggestions right now. Your problems, are pretty big, and they're not going to be solved easily. However, I really think I can help you based on the suggestions I've given you. I know it's a lot of work I'm asking you to do, but it goes back to what I said at the very beginning of the video. Do you want to improve your writing? And my next question, of course, is, will you practice? So, I believe that if you follow the steps that I've given you in this particular video, you can change your writing proficiency for the better. All right, anyway, thank you very much for doing the independent writing practice test, and I look forward to reading your next one.